My name is Marcus Webb. I'm 28 years old, and if you drive far enough out into the hills and follow the river until the road runs out, you'll find the concrete wall that pays my bills and is probably going to kill me. Officially, it's called the Harlow Hydroelectric Facility, a gray monolith wedged between two cliffs, holding back 20 miles of dark water. Unofficially, the guys who train me call it the lid, like the government built a giant pressure cooker out here and everybody pretends it's just about power. I took the job because the posting said night security, isolated site, federal benefits, and after burning out in a data center, babysitting a big concrete wall sounded peaceful. I wear the same uniform every shift, black hoodie with a faded logo under my issued jacket, dark jeans, steel-toe boots, ID badge clipped to my chest, radio on my shoulder. My duties, according to the glossy orientation packet, are simple. Patrol the perimeter, monitor cameras, respond to alarms, and absolutely never, under any circumstances, go into the lower gallery alone. That last part should have been a red flag, but they buried it on page 9 under a diagram of spillway gates and turbine intakes. The guy who read it out loud during training, a thick-necked supervisor named Grady, just tapped the line with his pen and said, "Someone upstairs likes their dramatic language. Real rule is, don't go where you're not assigned and don't touch anything that's painted yellow." Then he looked at me for a second too long, like he was waiting to see if I'd ask why the lower gallery had its own line in bold. I didn't. I wanted the job. I wanted the paycheck. And I wanted something quiet enough that I could hear myself think for once. Turns out, there's plenty to hear out here if you listen long enough. The dam is built like a bunker, all right angles and narrow access halls, with 3 main levels, operations on top, turbines in the middle, and a long, echoing corridor low down inside the base that everyone calls the gallery. It runs along the upstream face of the dam, a concrete tunnel with inspection ports every 20 feet. During the day, maintenance crews go down there in groups to check for leaks, stress cracks, and whatever else keeps 100,000 tons of water from deciding gravity is worth another shot. At night, according to the manual, it's off-limits unless there's an emergency. If there's a real emergency, kid, Grady told me that first week, you won't be down there anyway. You'll be up here in control relaying whatever the suits tell you until they decide whether to save the wall or the river. Our job is to watch, log, and not get in the way. I believed him. Then I read the laminated sheet taped to the back of the control room door. Dam security protocol level 3 site. 3 rules in big black letters. 1. No personal electronic devices on turbine or gallery levels. 2. All unexplained vibrations are to be reported, not investigated. 3. If you receive an emergency alert mentioning Harlow facility, you are to seal all interior doors and remain in control until instructed otherwise, regardless of observed conditions. That 3rd rule wrapped around my spine and settled there. I'd heard of flood alerts, grid failure alerts, even contamination notifications when a chemical plant upriver had an issue, but I'd never seen anything that referenced a single structure by name. I asked Grady what kind of emergency alert they meant and he just shrugged. Same one everybody gets on their phones, he said. If the alphabet boys decide they need our full cooperation, they'll make your screen scream. Until then, don't lose sleep over it. The dam's older than you and has less of a social life. He laughed at his own joke. I didn't. The first 2 weeks were uneventful. My shift started at 6 in the evening. I'd drive the access road in the dying light, pass through the checkpoint where a bored guard scanned my badge and barely looked at my face, and park beside the vast shadow of the spillway. Once the sun dropped, the dam turned into a different kind of place. The valley wind cut across the reservoir, cold and sharp, and the water behind the wall became a flat, black sheet that swallowed the starlight. Inside, the whole structure hummed with the deep mechanical heartbeat of the turbines. You don't hear the river anymore. You hear the machines that hold it hostage. There were cameras everywhere, over the crest road and the stairwells along the gallery. My patrols became routine, exterior checks, A walk through the turbine hall where the generators towered 3 stories high like metal gods. A lap through the intermediate corridor where the concrete sweated in thin, dark lines. I never went to the lower gallery. I didn't have to. That was maintenance territory, and the idea of being that close to the upstream face, just a few feet and a couple feet of concrete away from millions of tons of water, didn't appeal to me anyway. Then, 3 nights ago, the humming changed. It was subtle at first, a shift in the way the floor vibrated under my boots. I was in control, watching the monitors, sipping burned coffee, when a low, rhythmic tremor rolled through the room, like someone had dropped a truck-sized subwoofer into the foundation and turned it up just enough to tickle bone. The camera feeds didn't show anything. Turbines spinning, gates steady, pressure readings within normal ranges. I keyed the radio. "Control to turbine," I said. "You guys doing something creative down there?" There was a pause, then one of the techs answered, sounding bored. "Negative control. All units nominal. You getting phantom shakes again?" "Again?" I asked. Another pause I didn't like. "Ask Grady," the tech said. "He's the one who wrote Protocol Line 2. All unexplained vibrations are to be reported, not investigated." I logged the tremor, filed the report, and tried to ignore the way the concrete seemed to pulse under my chair every few minutes, like the dam had grown a second, slower heartbeat under the one I'd learned to tune out. Around 23:30, my phone, locked in the metal cubby by the door, per policy, screamed. Not a notification ping. The full, harsh 3-tone blast of the emergency alert system that makes your skin crawl even when it's just a test. The sound knifed under the sound of the EAS tone, hadn't even finished echoing off the concrete before I was out of my chair, yanking open the metal cubby and grabbing my phone. The screen burned white in the dim control room, and for a second I thought I was looking at static, just a blur of noise, until the message resolved line by line with a lag that made me feel like someone somewhere was typing it live. "Origin, DHS black, priority, site lock. Emergency alert, do not enter the lower gallery. Remain in control. Do not respond to knocking, pounding, or audible stimuli from the upstream face. Project Stillwater status, compromised." Under that was a yellow banner labeled internal only, as if the system itself wasn't sure whether civilians should be seeing this. My throat went dry. I turned in a slow circle, half expecting something to be standing behind me, but the control room looked the same. Gray walls, humming panels, monitors showing the endless concrete guts of the dam. The only sound was the turbines below thundering like distant war drums. I thumbed the radio. "Control to Grady," I said. "You copy?" Nothing. "Just static." I tried the turbine channel. "Control to turbine, anyone copy?" More static. Dead, suffocating static. Radio blackout, that never happened. The facility had redundancies on redundancies. If the radios were down, someone killed them or something did. I paced, phone still in my hand, eyes flicking between the screens. The camera feeds were all online except for one, the far end of the lower gallery. Camera 3LG, black, not offline, just black. Like the lens was covered or pointed at darkness, so complete the image sensor gave up. I switched angles. Camera 2LG flickered slightly, the image wobbling as if something heavy moved through the air near the lens, but nothing visible crossed the frame. Camera 1LG near the stairwell remained static, just the long concrete tunnel empty, fluorescent lights buzzing. Then I felt it, a vibration under my boots, not the deep turbine thrum or the usual structural flex. A tap. Soft, quick. Then another tap, 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 like knuckles on a door. They came from beneath me, from the direction of the gallery. I froze. The emergency alert message pulsed in my mind, "Do not respond to knocking." I stood there like an idiot anyway, muscles locked, listening as the knocking grew louder, more deliberate. Tap, 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 tap. Something was hitting the upstream wall, hitting from inside the water side. Between blows, I could hear something else, like a low drone, almost a hum, vibrating through the bones of the dam. A voice, a machine, pressure shifting. My legs moved before my brain did. I backed away from the gallery stairwell door so fast I almost tripped. Then the knocking stopped, and the humming stopped, and for 5 long seconds the entire dam seemed to hold its breath. Then the camera feed for 1LG blinked. Once. Twice. On the third blink there was something in the hallway. A shape at the far end near the inspection port. I leaned closer, forehead almost touching the screen. The thing wasn't shaped right. Too tall, too narrow. Its outline didn't match a person. It was more like a human silhouette stretched vertically, limbs thin like rebar rods, joints wrong, bent at angles no body could manage. It stood with its back to the camera, facing the circular steel hatch that led to the inspection panel on the upstream wall. It lifted one arm, too long, and pressed its palm to the steel. The metal dented inward like soft clay. Then it knocked, once, twice, 3 times, and the dam answered. Not with knocks, no. With a deep, resonant groan that sent dust raining from the ceiling in the control room. The camera wavered again as the figure turned its head slightly, as if noticing the surveillance feed, though there were no eyes to see, no face at all. Just a smooth plane of gray, fissured like cracked concrete. I staggered back and hit the radio again. "Control to anyone, do not enter the lower gallery. Something's down there. Something," static roared so loudly I dropped the device. Then a new sound rose beneath the interference, a low, grinding exhale like a lungful of water collapsing. The lights flickered, the floor shook, and my phone buzzed with a second alert. "Emergency alert, remain in control, seal all interior doors, do not attempt evacuation. Project Stillwater Protocol 7 is active." Before I could even process that, the door to the stairwell, the one leading down toward the gallery, clicked. Then it unlatched, slowly, smoothly, like someone on the other side had turned the handle. My heart hammered. I reached instinctively for the manual lock beside the frame, but before I could hit it, something pressed against the other side of the door. Not a hand too broad, not a shoulder too soft. It pushed, testing the weight. The door bowed inward. Something wet seeped from underneath, spreading across the concrete like dark lake water. I stumbled back, eyes wide, as the pressure increased, the metal groaning in protest. Then the knocking started again, this time against the door itself. Slow, heavy, knock, 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 silence. Then Maacus, a voice, but not a voice made by lungs, a voice made by pressure. The dam had spoken, and it knew my name. The moment the dam said my name, or whatever was pushing through its bones did, the temperature in the control room dropped so fast my breath fogged. The stairwell door flexed inward with another groaning push, but it didn't burst open. Whatever was on the other side was not in a hurry. It was testing the structure, testing me. I backed toward the console bank, hands shaking so badly I nearly hit the wrong switch. I slammed the emergency lockdown button for interior barriers, and steel slabs hidden in the walls hissed downward, sealing every internal doorway except the one being forced open. The system didn't let me seal that one. Protocol wouldn't override structural pressure risk. Typical. The monitors flickered again, snow and distortion creeping across the lower gallery feeds like frost. Camera 1LG blinked to black, then returned, but the hallway was empty now. The stretch thing I'd seen before was gone, leaving nothing but a wet smear along the wall near the hatch. Concrete shouldn't smear. The knock came again, slow, thick, swollen sounding. Knock, then another knock. Then like a sigh dragged through mud, Maacus. My radio crackled suddenly so loud I nearly dropped it. Through the static, a voice shoved its way through, thin, strained, but human. "Control, this is Carter, don't open anything. Repeat, do not interact. We're en route, 5 minutes out, hold position. If the internal pressure increases, release turbine gate 7. That'll destabilize the lower gallery long enough to," the radio shrieked, a sound like metal being bent in half, followed by a wet crunch. Then silence, not static, silence. Something had cut him off. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the rolling chair. The knocking stopped abruptly. No sound at all now except the deep rumble of the turbines far below. My pulse filled the void. Then another vibration, not from the door. From under the floor, a rising pressure pulsing upward in slow, rhythmic beats, like a heartbeat the size of a mountain. The screens flickered and shifted to a new feed, one I didn't select. Camera EXTRES01, the reservoir surface. Midnight black water stretched for miles, still as glass. Then, right at the midpoint, the water bulged, not like a wave, like something pressed upward from underneath, displacing millions of gallons with lazy inevitability. I watched in frozen horror as the bulge sank again, sending gentle ripples toward the dam. Not violent, not threatening, just breathing. as if the whole reservoir was a lung. The emergency lights flicked to red, bathing the control room in blood-colored light. A text alert appeared on every screen simultaneously. Project Stillwater, threshold condition detected. Operator MARCUS web, remain stationary. Do not approach water-facing structures. Do not respond to vocalization. Another line appeared underneath it, smaller, almost as if someone typed it manually. It hears you. My phone buzzed again with a second alert, louder than before. Do not look at the inspection port windows. As soon as I read it, I heard something behind me. Not knocking this time, not pressure. A soft scraping like a fingertip, or something pretending to be one, dragging across the glass of the control room's tiny upstream-facing observation slit. I turned before I realized I shouldn't. Instinct, not thought, a mistake. The slit was maybe 8 inches tall, 3 inches high, barely enough to see the concrete of the upstream face. Except now the concrete was bulging inward in the shape of a face. No features, just impressions, eye cavities too deep, a mouth too long, pressed outward from the water side like something behind the wall was trying to mold a human face from the inside. The surface flexed again, concrete stretching like rubber and a crack split across it, dust raining down. The mouth-shaped bulge opened slightly, and through the crack, through the hum of the turbines and the alarms and my own pulse pounding in my skull, I heard it again. A whisper of water forced through a pinhole. Mahakus. I staggered away from the window. The wall flexed again, bulged again, then slowly relaxed. The face-shaped distortion sank back into the concrete as if the dam were stone again and not a membrane between me and something enormous in the dark. The stairwell door rattled violently this time. Something hit it hard, once, twice. On the third strike, the thick metal dented outward, fresh, deep, unmistakable. No human fist could do that, no machinery should try. The dam wasn't failing, I knew that now. Something was inside it, working its way through the walls like a parasite learning how to crawl through bone. My radio crackled with another burst of static, this time with multiple voices beneath it. Some human, some not. One voice mimicked Carter, another mimicked me, perfectly. "Open the door," my voice said from the radio. "You're safe now." The stairwell door handle turned, slowly, carefully, as if whatever held it was curious how far it could mimic me before I broke. I backed toward the emergency gate controls. My hand hovered over the release for turbine gate 7. Opening it would flood part of the lower gallery, probably kill anything down there, probably destabilize half the dam, probably kill me if I mistimed it. But if I didn't do something, something was coming through that door. Then the phone alert tone shrieked again, sharp, urgent, new, emergency alert. Open gate 7 now. Do not hesitate, do not delay. The door behind me groaned, something massive leaned against it. The handle turned again, and from the other side, in a perfect imitation of my voice, my breath pattern, my tone, my cadence, I heard, "Marcus, let me in." I slammed the gate 7 release, and the dam began to scream. When I hit the gate 7 release, the sound that rolled through the dam wasn't a normal alarm. It was a low metal bellow that shoved up through the concrete and into my ribs, like the whole structure was yelling at once. The deep grinding under my boots told me heavy steel somewhere below was swinging open into black pressure that had been locked in for decades. On the mimic board, Turbine 7's icon flipped from green to orange to pulsing red while a pressure graph spiked off the top of the display. The stairwell door bowed inward once, as if whatever leaned on it lost its footing, then snapped back like the weight on the far side had dropped away. The knocking and the voice using my name cut off at once. Then the floor jumped as the first surge slammed into the intake. Camera 1LG in the lower gallery went from empty concrete to chaos. Spray filled the frame, and the stretch thing I'd seen before was halfway between the inspection port and the stairs, long arms reaching. The surge hit its side-on like a train made of white water, smashing it against the opposite wall hard enough that cracks spidered out from the impact. Its limbs bent in wrong places, joints folding like broken ladders. Its blank head ballooned under pressure, and for 1 second my own face pressed outward on that smooth plane, eyes and mouth stretched across it as if the thing had tried my features on. Then the feed went black. New text crawled across the other screens. Structural stress exceeding safe parameters. Initiating Stillwater flood purge. Under that, in harsher font, Operator, remain in control. Do not attempt egress. Failure to comply increases cascade risk. Outside the narrow upstream slit, the dam's inner skin flexed again as a rolling bulge slid along the concrete, like something on the water side had thrown in a shoulder and was dragging it, hunting for a seam. Turbine status lights dropped from active to scram as safeties tripped. The familiar hum died, leaving only the raw sound of water somewhere below. My radio spat static, then fragments of voices. Underneath the mess, Carter's voice cut through. Control status. Gate 7 is open, I said. There was something in the gallery at the stair door on the upstream wall. It said we saw enough, he cut in. Node picked it up. You hit it where it feels it. Gate stays open until Stillwater clears you. If automation tries to close it, fight it. The floor gave a long, slow shiver. Somewhere below, rock or rebar snapped with a distant crack. Did I stop it? I asked. Did I kill it? Silence for a few seconds. No, Carter said. You made it move. That's all we can ever do. Stillwater isn't there to tame water. It's there to keep something else from learning new paths through pressure. The dam is the excuse they poured around the real problem. I stared at the reservoir feed. Out on the black water, the same long bulge rose again, a broad dome pushing the surface up before sinking as bypass gates shifted. The ripples turned in slow spirals like something under there was rolling over. You've known there was something in the wall this whole time, I said. Not stress, not leaks, a thing. On paper, it's a persistent pressure anomaly, he said. They don't like the word entity, but yes. It pushes on the upstream face, it learns the concrete, it shapes itself now and then. Tonight is the first time we've seen it get curious about a single operator. When it starts using names, that's when people get written out of logs. A seismograph window popped on a side screen, live lines of bedrock tremors. They pulsed in neat sets of 3, small spike, bigger spike. Knock, knock, knock translated into rock. Text, upstream face oscillation increasing. Proximity to gallery, high. On the mimic board, Gate 7's status flickered between open and override request. Some process kept trying to shut it. System wants the gate closed, I said. It keeps throwing prompts. That isn't the system, Carter said. That's Stillwater trying to smooth the pain, keep the knife in. You should see the grid overlay. The main display redrew as a wireframe of the dam wrapped in a lattice of nodes. Some glowed blue, some red, one at mid-depth pulsed sick yellow, Gate 7. Beneath the foundation line, another icon throbbed a color the legend didn't name. It sat in the rock under the wall, not in the concrete. What's that? I asked. That, Carter said, is the hole we built this on. Officially, it's an anomalous void. Sonar can't find bottom, lines don't behave, the math says negative pressure. Think of a throat that pulls up instead of down. That's where the pattern sleeps when it's not pushing on you. The deep icon pulsed. The whole wireframe shivered. Warnings multiplied, deflection exceeding model, copy to DHS, copy TO AEG, copy TO black. My phone screamed again in its metal cubby. I grabbed it. The new alert was short. Emergency alert, remain inside HARLOW control. Do not evacuate. If you are MARCUS Web, you are a designated observer. You will not be rescued if you leave. They just told me if I walk out, I'm alone, I said. Then don't walk out, Carter replied. You're the only set of eyes under the lid. Cameras bend when that thing leans on the walls. Listen, there's a chance Stillwater fails. If that happens, you'll get one last alert. It'll tell you to open every gate you can reach. You're talking about dumping the reservoir, I said. Flooding everything downstream. Better water than whatever is behind that wall figuring out our grid, he said. Your job is to watch and make sure if anything off-script happens, somebody hears about it before they decide whether to drown a valley or roll dice with something old. Keep your head, Webb. If you crack, it'll come in the only way it can. How? I asked, though I already knew. Through pressure, through sound, through a voice wearing your name until you answer it. The wall shuddered again. Dust sifted from the ceiling. From deep in the upstream face came 3 slow, heavy impacts, spaced not like knocks but like steps. Whatever was on the water side wasn't tapping anymore. It had found its feet, and now it was walking along the inside of the dam, closer with every patient, deliberate stride. The footsteps inside the dam, because that's the only word my mind can force onto those slow, crushing impacts. moved with the patience of something that had waited decades to stand upright. Each one hit the upstream face with the weight of a freight train delivered underwater. THOOM. Dust shook loose from the rafters. THOOM. The floor beneath my boots trembled like skin under a drum strike. THOOM. And each time the pressure wave passed straight through the concrete, into the control room, into me. My ears rang. My vision pulsed. I couldn't tell if the shaking was in the structure or in my bones. The mimic board lit up with contorted geometry as the Stillwater algorithms tried to predict the creature's movement. But the lines kept folding, tearing, redrawing impossible angles that didn't match anything physical. The system wasn't modeling force. It was modeling intent. And it had no category for what it was seeing. A new alert slammed across every monitor at once. The lettering jagged, vibrating like the text itself didn't want to be on the screen. Structural interface breach imminent. Operator MARCUS web maintain visual. Do not engage, do not open door, maintain visual on what? Then impossibly the lights in the control room flickered, not from electrical failure but as if the dam itself dimmed. The air thickened, my breath shortened. Pressure climbed inside my skull until it felt like my thoughts were underwater. And then the steps stopped. Silence. Not turbine rumble, not water, not vibration. A horrible, unnatural halt. The cameras in the lower gallery all cut out simultaneously. The reservoir feed froze. The mimic board went white. The dam had stopped being measurable. I didn't realize I was backing toward the far wall until my boot hit the console. The stairwell door, dented outward from when something had been pushing earlier, creaked softly. Then it began to deform inward. The metal didn't bulge from a push. It curled like fingers were pressing from many angles at once, learning the shape of the door. Radio crackled. Then a voice hissed through, broken, metallic, as though forced through a pressure leak. Control web, stay away from the door, don't let it hear breath, don't let it cut out. Not with static, with suction, a wet vacuum sound like air being yanked away. Then something tapped on the door, not pounding, not knocking. A single, soft, deliberate tap. I froze. A second tap, then a third. And then from the metal, from the pressure itself, from the dam's thick concrete bones came my voice. Marcus, open it. Not the mimic from the radio. This time it wasn't copying sound. It was copying memory. It said my name the way I say it in my head, not aloud. That broke something in me. I stumbled away from the door, all the way to the reservoir monitors, dead screens reflecting the red emergency lights. My phone shrieked again. No tone this time, just a raw digital scream. Then a final alert overriding everything, written in letters so large they filled the entire display. Last line protocol, open all gates now. Do not delay. Failure will result in entity breakthrough. My hand hovered over the master spillway release. The valves that would empty the reservoir, flood the entire valley, sacrifice towns downstream, drown thousands. But if I didn't, the thing behind the wall would step through. And if it could imitate me through concrete, through water, through pressure, if it could learn shape, if it could walk, there wouldn't be a world left to drown. I hit the release. The dam roared. The floor leapt. A thunder so vast it was less sound than force slammed into the control room. Monitors shattered. The observation slit blew inward in a spray of dust and glittering concrete shards. Through it I saw black water begin to tear itself downward as the spillways opened in a screaming torrent. The reservoir collapsed into itself. Miles of water ripped downward toward freedom. And in that moment, just before the cameras died forever, I saw the upstream face bulge. Once, twice, then recede, not defeated, not gone, dragged downward with the water, pulled back into the deep hole Carter had described, the throat beneath the dam, into sleep, or something like sleep. The next thing I remember is rescue crews cutting into the control room at dawn. I was alive. Buried in rubble up to my waist, half-deaf, coughing concrete dust, but alive. The valley was. Entire towns downriver were obliterated. The government called it a catastrophic structural failure, a tragedy, an unforeseeable collapse. They gave me a medical room, a psych evaluator, and a contract with more black lines than text. They never once asked if I'd open the gates. They already knew. 6 months have passed. I live far from any dam, any river, any open water. High floor. Reinforced walls. But some nights I wake to the sound of not knocking, not tapping, just pressure, the walls inhaling, my phone vibrating with no alert on screen, and a faint, slow exhale rising up through the floor, not water, not wind. A voice learning the shape of my name again. Ma'akus. The spillways removed it from the dam, but they didn't remove it from me. And somewhere far below, maybe under rock, maybe under water, maybe under everything, something is pushing upward again. Learning new ways to knock, waiting for something to open, and it remembers exactly who did.